Hello and welcome back to Check It News Network. Today's broadcast will review the most current research on COVID-19. We've now had over 6 months for scientists to research COVID-19 and those who have suffered from it. There are a variety of topics that we will discuss, and all sources are cited in the description below. Let's get started. The first research topic I want to review is antibody testing. Does everyone remember this scary day? Oh yes, when the news flashed the headline that you could get reinfected. Yes, this was completely a scare tactic. The virus was not old enough then to have any research done into antibody testing, so yes, hypothetically there is a possibility that our bodies somehow could never create antibodies and we could all get reinfected over and over. But there was absolutely zero science behind this. It was a lie used to scare whoever watched the newscast that day. When individual doctors go on social media and give out information about how they are actually treating COVID-19 patients, they get their accounts banned for health misinformation. But when CNN and other major news networks give out blatantly correct health information, they don't get banned from Twitter or Facebook. The CDC even stated that anyone propagating the myth of reinfection was dangerously misconstruing information. Please take this into account the next time a major news organization says a bunch of scary stuff. The fact is that it takes a lot of time to see how antibodies are going to be produced to a new virus and how those antibodies react to the virus over time. We're just now getting studies that give us a glimpse into antibody production against COVID-19. There are 6 studies, the links to which I have put in the description of this video, that are giving us hopeful data that many people are having a good immune response to the disease. The longest of these studies checked antibody production at 115 days, so that's about 4 months. That study showed that there was still a strong antibody reaction to the virus at the 115-day mark. Now, this still doesn't mean we can make generalizations like, once we're infected, we have immunity. A 4-month study that shows promising results doesn't guarantee anything. Viruses are very unpredictable, and we still need more time to study before we make any claims. This is what CNN should have said when they did their reporting. But they are not ethical, so they jumped to the scariest conclusion they could, and then that got spread throughout our entire population. The 6 studies I reviewed here give us just some positive hope that we can build immunity, and I think we could all use a little hope. I encourage everyone to keep doing their own research and follow good scientists on the new antibody data that continues to come out. I would like to note that the majority of these studies tested either asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic COVID-19 patients. Patients who had severe symptoms may have a different antibody production reaction. The reason that these studies focus on the former 2 groups is because the majority of the population falls into these 2 groups. I would just like to finish with a quote from one of the authors of the studies that I reviewed. Good immune memory requires molecules and cells to be abundant, effective, and durable. The studies show that this is happening for many patients at 115 days, but it will be interesting for us to see if this immune memory holds up long term. To reiterate, the official stance of the CDC and the WHO is that we do not yet know if reinfection is possible, and this is true. But there are some studies to be positive about. Next, I would like to talk about the concept of herd immunity. Herd immunity is the percentage of the population that has to have immunity in order for there to not be enough hosts for the virus to spread, which effectively would end the pandemic. There are various ways a population could become immune, but let's focus on the math of herd immunity. The traditional formula to determine the percentage of the population that must have immunity to achieve herd immunity is 1 minus 1 over R, where R is the number of people each infected person infects. So hypothetically, if every person infects 3 other people, then the formula would be 1 minus 1/3, so approximately 67% of the population would have to have immunity to reach the herd immunity status. This is the simplistic homogeneous way of looking at herd immunity and is what many scientists are ascribing their modeling to. But these same assumptions are the reasons why the models that the coronavirus task force gave us during daily updates in March were so wrong. This virus does not spread homogenously throughout the population. This is why some scientists have put out new mathematical models that predict much lower rates of immunity required for herd immunity. I have cited two studies below. One argues that only 43% of the population would need immunity, and the other actually argues that it's even closer to 20%. The arguments are that the highly susceptible will get infected first, but the virus will quickly lose hosts after that because sections of the population are not susceptible to infection. Again, these are just models and are not meant to give advice on how to act during the pandemic, but these are the types of models followed by countries like Sweden, and it will be interesting to see how their population reacts. Another very promising research topic is Glycism. It's a hard word to say, but Glycism is a compound found naturally in licorice root. Scientists know that Glycism has a very strong antiviral properties. Glycism is prescribed today to combat hepatitis and even HIV. The compound prevents certain viruses from replicating in cells. During the SARS outbreak of 2003, Glycism was studied extensively, and many studies found it was an extremely effective treatment for SARS patients. 3 of those studies are located in the description below, but you can actually find even more than that. Because the SARS virus of 2003 has a 73% similarity in genetic makeup to the COVID virus, some scientists have begun to explore the possibility of Glycism as a treatment for COVID-19. There have already been studies showing that Glycism is effective at preventing COVID-19 from replicating in vitro, meaning in labs. These studies have shown so much promise that the WHO has registered 2 clinical trials and 1 case study to see how the effectiveness of Glycism is as a treatment for COVID-19. You can find the WHO clinical trial numbers also below. If Glycism is found to have some effectiveness against the virus, it will be great news, as Glycism is a natural supplement that the FDA says is normally tolerated well, and it's very cheap. However, do not consider taking Glycism on your own. It can increase blood pressure and should not be taken without first consulting a medical doctor. The doctor who did the in vitro study noted at the end of his study, it should be worth a consideration to study this compound for a type of primary prevention which does not necessarily lower the risk of becoming infected, but potentially the severity of the disease and in reducing already existing symptomology. This could help reduce the number of critically ill patients which currently overwhelm the healthcare system. Lastly, I would like to update the feverish search for a vaccine. There are many vaccines being tested all around the world, but I would like to focus on 3 of them that have been fast-tracked. The first is the BCG vaccine. The BCG vaccine is actually a vaccine that has been around for decades. This is a vaccine for tuberculosis. We know from 90 years of experience that this vaccine is very well tolerated and safe. Areas of the world that still use this vaccine started to notice lower infection rates of COVID-19, which led scientists to look into the BCG vaccine being used as a vaccine for COVID-19. Clinical trials have actually shown so much promise that there is currently a phase 4 clinical trial in America that has recruited nurses on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19 to determine BCG's efficacy. If the BCG vaccine demonstrates good results against COVID, this would be a game changer because this vaccine has such a long history of safety. The second vaccine is the mRNA 1273 vaccine. This is an actual COVID-19 vaccine that deactivates the protein that allows the virus to get into a host cell. There are phase 3 clinical trials underway for this vaccine that have already recruited 60,000 people. This vaccine is being developed by Moderna, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Similarly, AstraZeneca, also a gigantic pharmaceutical company, is in phase 3 clinical trials for a COVID-19 vaccine that they have developed, and they have also recruited 60,000 people for their trial. The AZD1222 vaccine is actually a different deactivated coronavirus, but has been modified to look like the virus that causes COVID-19 so that the immune system is able to build up immunity to the actual virus. Australia has already signed a contract with AstraZeneca to distribute the vaccine to all of their citizens as soon as it is proven safe and effective. All of the clinical trial numbers are listed below in the description. I hope the information presented in this video helps people to understand the great efforts that are being taken to remedy this pandemic. Thanks for watching Check It News Network, and I will see you all in the future.